Morning, everyone.
Morning, David.
It's a new tie, Jesse. Looking good.
Yeah, brought out the good stuff for all you.
Well done. I'm feeling underdressed here.
Good morning, one and all. You are now broadcasting live on our live stream to YouTube, and we do have a significant number of members online. We have 89 attendees so far. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, John. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I apologize in advance if my son makes an appearance, but I'm doing this from home. So
We are looking forward to it. Mr. President, I have 9 a.m. Before you call the meeting to order, we should recognize that we are on the unceded territory of the Stolo, Musqueam, and Squamish people. I will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, John. Well, welcome everybody to our first ever online AGM. So thank you for all that have gotten up this Saturday morning and joined us. Looks like I've got almost at least 90 people, members on the call. So thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order. Hopefully everyone has the agenda and the material in front of them. And the first order of business would be confirmation of notice of meeting. John?
Yep, thank you, Mr. President. I can confirm that notice was given to all members in accordance with the bylaws.
Thank you. I guess Marnie or John, can we confirm that we have quorum?
We do. We have 104 members online, 106 members now, and 10 directors and administrative notaries for a total of 116. Quorum is 41. We have a quorum.
Perfect. I guess we should just say is that John will be using the chat and the question and answer buttons for the members.
Yes, and we also have some polls that are built in for the for various motions, and we will be able to add as may be needed throughout the meeting.
Perfect. And the first one would be the approval of the agenda, and I've got Kate Green that has moved that motion. Seconded, anyone? I got seconded by Chris. And then we will allow the members to now approve. They should have, you should be seeing a button. If you could vote on that, please.
And Miss Greening, no, we cannot hear you, but I see your chat.
John, Ron here. I note that panelists can't vote, even though some of us, of course, are members of the society. So not that, probably won't make a voting difference, but if you're on here as a panelist, the system will not let you vote.
Thanks, Ron. Let me know when you've got some numbers there, John.
We have 80 who have voted to approve, 2 that are abstaining. We will end the poll and consider that the agenda is approved as presented.
Thank you. Next meeting agenda item is the approval of the minutes of our last AGM. Do I have someone that can approve that motion? Bill, seconded by Chris Dupuy.
Oh, I have to show the
And
next one.
now we'll open it up for voting again. Well,
What is
John?
it? 81 voted for. Oh no, this is the wrong one. There we go. To watch the poll. Oh, and there was a button that said allow panelists to vote. Next one, I'll make sure I check the button to allow panelists to vote.
Thank you.
We're technologically challenged. It is Saturday after all.
I'm assuming that we've got enough there.
Yes, we sure do.
Perfect. I guess we will, next one is my report.
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you. My report obviously is in the AGM package. I will discuss some of the items that are not in that report there. Firstly, I'd like to start off by paying our respects to Stephen Chong and his family. So I'd like to start off by having a moment of silence for Stephen Chong, please. Thank you. Do we want to do the election results right up front to get that out of the way, John?
Oh, you can do your report first, sir.
Perfect. So we'll start off by where the year started back in September with the AGM and the new board. We started out in November with our first orientation, which was in the report as it states that it was a mandatory. It was led by Daryl Pink from Nova Scotia. From there, we also asked Daryl to lead our strategic session, which we held in February, literally weeks before COVID had hit. We were in Victoria. It was a great session. I think it was an intense session over 2 days. Everyone from the board attended. I'm sure, and the rest of the board would concur that it was an excellent session, and the byproducts and the results of what we had agreed and discussed and achieved through that meeting. I believe that we really had some fundamental changes of how the board was going to function and operate as we proceeded with future meetings and what our goals and visions were. I think it was a very productive weekend, and it shows with our future meetings that we've had subsequently. Of course, after that, we never had a full days of board meetings after that, but I think with what we've how the meetings have been structured subsequently, they've really aligned with what we discussed over that weekend. Leading into after the strategic session, we came into March, and we all know what has come to, I guess, a normalcy now with COVID. It was very intense at the beginning when things were really up there and we didn't know what we were doing and what was going on and so forth, and trying to protect the members and the public. I think personally, I feel that, John and Ron and Marnie and senior management did an excellent job of stick handling all the things that were that we had to deal with. And I know personally, I was constantly on the phone with John and the team, trying to ensure that we were addressing all the concerns of the members and also, of course, the public at large as well. So, and that was representative of the webinars that we started, and the attendance on those webinars, the questions that we were getting, the feedback that we were getting, and then posting them. I mean, we see the members that are online at one time. I don't think we track how many people actually view the webinar after it's been recorded, but I know that I've heard from many members that they appreciate that the meetings were recorded so that they could view them at their own leisure. So thank you again to the team and also to the board as well. We had to, speak to each other, get in meetings and figure out things. So to the board and to the senior management team, thank you. And I also thank the membership for how they've handled the situation as well, and how they've come to the table and taken a lead and in charge as far as making sure that that the clients and consumers were still taken care of in their transfers, and whatever needed to be done got done. And Ron, great job on remote signing and all that other stuff and all the webinars and so forth. I think educational, and with yourself and Joan, and leading the POW line and answering the questions that the members had, dealing with definitely unprecedented situations that had come across. Thank you to all. Next, we will get to the public appointees, but I'm sure that you see them on the call. So that was something that I think is something that we should really be proud of the public appointees. I'll just go through a little bit of the process. We had several people interested in the position, and everyone that was had submitted an application we had interviewed. We had selected individuals from the board to sit on that committee and get introduced to the applicants. And I would like to welcome Lisa Aboud and Alan Trevelyan. You can see them on the call, to the board of the Societies of Notaries Public, and they will be entering 2-year terms. And I'll get a little bit of a background. I think I'm going to pull it up here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got Lisa, who is with the LTSA, also with a marketing and communications background, and then Alan, who is a professor of law at UVic, a long career in part of the Law Society. And we welcome the both of you to our board and look forward to working with the both of you. So thank you. Now I'd like to get to, yes, election results. Thank you, John. I will, if you pulled it up, I'll let you, John, if you want to, and then I'll say a couple other things, but I'll let you give the results of the elections, please.
Right. Can you see the certificate on your screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So we once again conducted the election through Simply Voting. The election concluded as per the schedule, and it has been certified by Simply Voting as having been securely processed and accurately tabulated. The election results are based on a 75.3% electoral turnout, and the top 4 have been elected to the board. So congratulations to Steve Wu, Sabrina Hanasek, Lillian Kazaku, and Kate Manville. And my sincere appreciation to all of the members that ran Again, it was really gratifying to have such a wonderful turnout of people that allowed their name to stand. And every single one of those individuals would have made a fabulous board member.
Yes. Thanks, John. So again, thank you to, first of all the members that put their name forward. Really appreciate that. It was great to see so many people putting their names forward and trying to make that commitment to the board and the membership. So thank you. And then the members that got elected, welcome, and thank you for serving as well. So with new members, that means we have members that board members that will also will not be returning. And I'd like to take a moment to just say my thank you to all of them that will not be returning. So Bill and Chris, thank you for your many, many years of service. As of now, the two of you will be, well, after this meeting, will be lifetime board members. So thank you for your years of service and your commitment to the society and its members. So thank you. I don't see Linda Manning on the call, but thank you, Linda Manning, for your many years of service as well as on the board. Susan Tong, thank you for your years of service as well. And then Linda Casely as well. So thank you for your 2 years of service as well. So thank you to all. That would conclude my report. If there is any questions, I'm sure that we'll have time for questions, but if there is, myself and John will be manning the questions and chat as well. So that is that. We have introduced the public members, and I will hand it over to John for his report.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to start my report by looking back at the year, and of course, it's been a real challenging year with the election and moving through some of the fundamental changes that came out of not only the board orientation and then into strategic planning, but certainly, as Jesse said, the health pandemic, the coronavirus, really changed the dynamics for the society and of course for members. I have to say a big thank you to Ron Usher. He has been absolutely invaluable in his work, co-hosting and hosting webinars and being just so very responsive to the many situations and many dynamics. Right next to Ron, of course, I have to say a big thank you to Marnie Moran, the secretary. She has also been invaluable to me on the management team. And for any members that have dealt with Marnie through the year, just so helpful in providing answers and solutions. One of our real big challenges just into March was the precipitous fall of authentications that used to come into the office. And that resulted in a number of changes. We had a number of staff leave because of volumes that were down, and certainly appreciate their contributions over the years. Didn't take long before the authentication numbers did come back up, and I know that that's in Marnie's report, so I'm not going to speak to numbers. As we came through and started looking at June, July, and really coming to I'm going to call it a new normal, but of course there's nothing normal about what we're currently experiencing. But the society has remained focused on acting in the public interest. The board has shifted entirely to online meetings, and some real success there in that we now offer these meetings to members to tune in. The meetings generally are 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So we've continued to be extremely productive as a society and as a board, which has certainly created lots of work for management. Getting minutes out in a timely fashion has certainly been a challenge. I will conclude my report there. I see that there might be one question. Will the voting results be available for members to review? I did not get a chance to look at them. Yes, they will be posted to the members' website at the conclusion of the meeting.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Marnie, over to you, please.
Get my microphone on. There we go. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to give some highlights to my report, which is written and in the annual general report. First of all, membership to June 30th was 408 members. We had 12 resignations last year, and 24 new notaries were commissioned in a very interesting commissioning ceremony conducted in May of this year. It was a real question mark as to whether we were going to be able to graduate our students at all this year, given the restrictions placed on everybody. But with the assistance of the courts, we did manage to do it electronically. Chief Justice Hinkson conducted the ceremony on May 13th, and we did have all 24, I believe it was 24 new graduates here in the office, socially distanced, and we did the ceremony in 2 groups. So I want to thank our new notaries for their cooperation in that event that day. It was quite challenging to put on, that's for sure. Part of my report sets out some of the stats around our membership, the age distribution and gender. It's interesting to note that 58% of our membership are women, and 73% of our membership are between the ages of 35 and 55. The authentications did take a bit of a hit this year in the March, April, May period. But again, as John said, they did rebound considerably, especially in June, where we had our biggest month of the last couple of years, actually. So authentications are ongoing. We are managing them here in the office, and we're pretty much back to normal, I would say. There have been no terminations or suspensions this year. And we do have an award to give out today. We're giving out the Education Credits Award. Now, education credits were also a challenge this year, given the restrictions. Members weren't able to attend as many education courses as they would have normally or would have liked to. But we did have most members achieve their requirement, although we did reduce the requirement for this year as a result of COVID-19. We do have a winner of our most education credits, and that is Beverly Carter. Beverly got 24 education credits this year from a variety of different programs and in-person presentations that she did in her community before the lockdown. So congratulations to Beverly Carter, and she'll be getting a monetary award from the Society for that achievement. We do have to report some former members that passed away this year. They are listed in my report at the end, and our condolences go out to their family, friends, and colleagues. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Marnie. Now we're going to get into the committee reports, and we will start off with the Finance Committee. So I'll hand it over to David and Eric for that, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the material prepared here. So I would first like to just thank the Finance Committee, Hassan, Alex, Chris, Andrea Banks, and of course, Jesse, for your efforts through the year. And it's been an interesting year. I'd like to now introduce our CFO, Alex Fryatt, who will discuss and review our financials. And I'd also like to introduce our auditor from BDO, Brian Sabato, who will also be available for questions on our process. There will be time after the presentation for questions. So without further ado, Eric, please proceed.
Thanks, David. So yeah, I'll start out by just briefly hitting some of the highlights throughout the financial statements. And as David said, we can deal with any questions that come up at the end. So I'll start with the asset section. Due to and from funds, there's been a bit of a change in presentation with those things. In previous years, we had sort of an elimination column that we've done away with this year, just to simplify the presentation, and I think that's been successful. It's easier to look at this year and a little less messy, I suppose. It's kind of cleaned up the presentation, so that's been great. Due from ProSuite, you can see there's been a $200,000 reduction that reflects a payment that we've received from ProSuite in the year. The investment in the BC Notaries Captive Insurance Company, that has increased $1.49 million, and that's a reflection of net income in the captive. The investment in the captive is shown on an equity basis in our financial statements, and that the effect of that essentially is that the net income from the captive comes in and in a positive, in a net income situation that will increase the investment in a given year. So that's what we've seen this year. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities, we've seen a decrease there of about $53,000, and that simply reflects timing and a decrease in trade payables at the end of the year. Unearned dues. Now, as many of you as members will appreciate, there was a decrease in the member fees this year for a couple reasons. There was a $500 per member planned decrease, as well as an additional $250 sort of COVID emergency special dues reduction. So when those membership billings went out, the amount of unearned dues is also tied to those billing numbers, and so we've seen a decrease of $240,000 in the unearned dues on the balance sheet, and that is a reflection of those lower billing amounts that went out related to membership billings. Authentication fees, as Marnie mentioned, they were hit initially during sort of the initial COVID period starting in March, but they have recovered quite well. Now, over the course of the fiscal year, the authentication revenue actually increased 17.9% over the prior year. A lot of that was due to a price increase which took place in the year and was implemented September 1st, 2019. We did see a volume decrease of 16.8% in the authentication revenue. Investment income, you can see there's been a decrease of 54.4% in the investment income, down from $411,000 in the prior year to $187,000 in the current year. And that reflects the transfer of assets to the captive insurance company in the year. Those assets are no longer held in the society, they're held in the captive, and so the society does not see the investment income from those funds anymore. So that accounts for the decrease that we've seen there. Miscellaneous revenue includes cost recoveries from the captive insurance company and the Notary Foundation. And as the operations of the captive mature, we anticipate that those will continue to decrease going forward, as there are fewer shared staff and services between the society and the captive insurance company. Trust administration fees. have actually increased by 4.3% to 1.92 million from 1.84 million in the prior year. And that's a reflection of quantity changes. There have been no price changes related to TAF in the year. And it was actually a little bit surprising how muted the effects on TAF were of COVID. The COVID effects on TAF. TAF responded or rebounded quite nicely after the the initial shock in March of COVID sort of hitting Canada and hitting Vancouver. So there was a bit of a bump around March and April, but things have recovered and are essentially back to normal from a TAF perspective. Now, if we move on to expenses, advertising and public relations, this line was formerly external advertising and PR, which has now been, those roles have been taken on by the Notaries Association. And so current year expenditures in the society relate exclusively to the society rebranding that took place in the year. As well as conferences, responsibility for holding conferences has moved to the association now, as well as, there was a cancellation of the spring conference due to COVID. And so you can see that there have been a marked decrease in related expenses there. Insurance, decrease of 92.1% in insurance expenses, and that relates to the fact that the insurance captive now covers the member insurance program, and so those expenses are no longer part of the society's expenses, and so the society expenses that you see reflected in the current fiscal year here are simply just related to the society's operations rather than including the member insurance program. Legal fees, we've seen a decrease to 145,000 from 426 in the prior year, and this is largely due to the transfer of retainer expenses again to the captive that were previously incurred in the society. We've also seen a decrease in miscellaneous legal expenses of $78,000 in the year, which has contributed to that decrease as well. Strategic plan, we've had both in the society and in the foundation strategic planning expenses in the year, and these are infrequent in nature, usually about every 3 to 5 years. And we've seen those $25,000 in the society and $38,000 in the foundation related to strategic planning. And tuition there, cost of delivering educational programs in the year is essentially what that is. And there were that includes the cost of instructors for content delivery, which is a sort of a recurring item. But we also had some one-time expenditures related to the delivery of education programs related to student website improvements in the society and the optimization of continuing education content delivery in the association. And then if we look at page 8 of the financial statements there, you can see the other items. We have some transfers transferred to the BC Notaries Association. And again, these are funds that were transferred in the year to support the activities and the expenses that were incurred in the association, covering activities that used to take place in the society, but are now the responsibility of the association. So it's some contributions related to that. So at the end of the day, you can see there the excess of revenue over expenses before other items So that's essentially the operating results of the society have actually increased slightly, $115,000 to 1.99 million in the current year. So again, like I say, up $115,000 from the prior year. And so given some of the headwinds that we've faced this year with COVID and that, well, primarily COVID, that's pretty good, I think. It was, especially when COVID first hit, there was a fair bit of, we didn't really know what to expect or how it was going to impact us. And I think we've fared pretty well as things have progressed. And I think these annual results ending June 30th reflect that. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, Eric, thanks very much for this presentation. And I'd also just like to thank you again for your efforts through the year. I can share that through our various meetings around what was happening with COVID, Eric was constantly modeling and remodeling our financials and had really good information for us to consider for budget and how things look financially moving forward. So again, thank you, Eric. Do we have any questions on the financials? I don't know if everybody's muted. I see one question in the chat window that it looks like John has answered. Am I correct there?
That's correct. There was one question about ProSuite's operating costs, and those are generally fund transfers and taxes. There is a new board in place that will be reviewing all of those expenses. And then a comment that it is nice to see TAF being looked after properly.
Well, I agree. I think it's nice that everything's looked after properly. So thank you for that.
And there is a resolution to approve the financial statement. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Well, I see no further questions. So, and I see a couple of hands up. Motion to approve the financials. I see Bill and Hassan and Chris. So I think I had Bill and Hassan first. And I can now see the pop-up. Do you approve the the 2020 financial statements? If I could ask everybody to take a moment to use the poll function to vote.
And as David mentioned, really hats off to Eric Fryatt for his work. When David said he did multiple remodels of budgets and looking at different scenarios, it was great work, and thanks very much, Eric.
Can we see results coming in there, John, on the?
Yeah, we sure can. We have 86 voting in favor, 1 abstained.
Okay, that looks so carried. Thank you very much. That concludes the report on the financial statements and concludes the report of the Finance Committee. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, David. And great work as always, Eric and David and the committee as well. And appreciate all the hard work. Moving along, we have committee reports. We do, I think we're missing a chair or two, John, but I'll let you respond. But all the committee reports are in the AGM package. What I will do is hand it over to the chairs of the respective committees if they would like to add anything further, or if there are any questions from the membership. So first one up on the agenda is Membership and Admissions Committee.
Yep, thank you. And I will deliver the report on behalf of Linda Manning, who was unable to make it today. Membership and admissions is one of the most busy and active committees throughout the year. They do review and vet applications, and their primary function is around the panel interviews of applicants. In this year, right around the beginning of March, the week before March 15th, is when we did our panel interviews. We had 3 panels of 4 notaries that interviewed 38 candidates. Of those, 32 were identified as successful. By the time applicants make it to the panel, they are all fully qualified and deserve a spot. And it's really just limitations within SFU that require the panel to unfortunately say no to certain people. This year the panels were highly responsive to the health pandemic. We did a number of interviews by video conference technology, which included having both the applicant and certain panel members in various rooms doing interviews. So it was, I think, a very respectful and successful set of interviews. As is expected, the people who are rejected are always, disappointed and want answers as to, why they were rejected. And the panel does try to provide as good information as they can. But again, because every applicant meets all of the criteria, it really comes down to having a successful interview with the panel. And I'd congratulate the students who, of course, started in September. And it's going to be another exciting class with some really, really good students in there. That would be the Membership and Admissions Committee report, sir.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Hand it over to Discipline Committee Chair, Bill.
Sorry about that. Not much to add, Jesse, to the report that's there. I guess apart from our CEO's, part of his role is to receive and investigate complaints received by the society. Throughout the year, he and I have worked together to evaluate the findings of those and to make a determination whether or not there's sufficient merit to warrant going through the society's discipline process. From the evaluations that we've done, we've got a number of matters that'll be proceeding through to through the discipline process here in the next while.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. And I know, of course, that just because of COVID as well, that's obviously something that needs to be considered when we're proceeding with any discipline matters as well, just process and protocols and so forth. So thank you for that. No questions or anything. Moving along. So we have legislation and bylaws. Linda Casely.
Oh, Linda appears to be having some issues with her microphone. Do you want me to jump in, Linda? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There, I got it, but go ahead.
There, oh,
Go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think there's too much to add. Just the issue of COVID has sort of accelerated the whole idea about how we do things remotely, and I think that needs to be a focus going forward. And we spent quite a bit of time on the electronic provisions, as you see there, but yeah, not much to add other than that. We'd like to keep going with the bigger project of the overhaul of the bylaws generally, and that's a sort of a better long-term project. So.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Linda. Moving along, practice standards, Hassan.
Hi, we have a scheduled meeting coming up in November. We hit a little bit of a stall when it came to the COVID delay. We are going to talk about, at the last meeting, we had a suggestion for practice standards to discuss the possibility of reviewing what might need to happen with the new Landowner Transparency Act from a practice standards perspective. So we talked about that a bit via email, and we're going to have a meeting coming up to talk about that further. And hopefully you'll see some more information getting published by the committee in the working into this new board year.
Perfect. Thanks, Hassan. Susan, for Audit Committee.
Hi, I just like to add that there was no major infractions. We didn't send anyone to discipline, and there was no spot audit. Due to COVID, audit took place remotely this year, and all documents will need to be provided electronically to the auditors. It would be helpful if financial records are kept electronically and the file names does not contain any symbols such as commas, dashes, brackets, etc. That's my report.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate that. Any questions from the membership on any of the committee reports or anything to date so far? Just leave it up for a minute here if there's any other questions or comments. All right. Well, seeing none. I think next course of business is the appointment of auditors. So, Brian, I don't think unless there's anything else, I think we're good with what you've done on the meeting. So I think we could excuse you for a sec, I guess, or.
Sure. If you don't need me back, I can just depart the meeting. I don't know if I can rejoin.
Yeah.
Or maybe John can send me a text and let me know to rejoin if there's a reason. I'll stand by. But otherwise, thanks very much for inviting me to the meeting, and look forward to the next year.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks very much, as always, Brian, and we'll let you know the outcome.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, so again, so at this point, we will appointment of the auditors. Do we have a resolution, John, or is it pretty straightforward? Just do you approve to appoint BDO Canada as the auditors for 2020-21? Do I have someone to move that motion? Chris and Bill. And now it is out for vote.
And this is the recommendation of the Finance Committee that we do continue with BDO as the auditors.
Yes, thank you, John and David.
And panelists, I did remember to click allow panelists to vote this time. So you have 96% voting in favor of BDO continuing as auditors.
Perfect. You have sorry, with these votes, John, you're when you say 96, we're not 96 of 5 people, right? We're 96 of what?
91 people have voted in favor.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellent. Well, I think we have been quite efficient today. One of the more efficient. I think last year too, we were pretty efficient with the AGM. So almost finishing up here regarding new business, any other business arising. I would, we still have Ron on the call? No, I don't see. Oh yeah, Ron's there. Ron, you haven't had your usual time on the mic here, so I'll give you a couple of minutes as well, just to any other comments from Pal and what's going on and so forth in the last, since our conference, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You know, as various people have noted, of course, who could have seen this year? You know, it's been genuinely, truly remarkable and required just extraordinary efforts right down to the staff and all of your firms out there. We were had a remarkable and intense level of discussions with government as we dealt with everything from notaries being seen as an essential practice to the various changes that got made to land title practice, wills practice, plan. There were just many things that came along, and so I just was very admirable of the incredible creativity of our members. We had to deal with rule changes that allowed some things that we weren't used to, expanded use, for example, of electronic funds transfer. People were very creative in their use of technology. We had notaries with clients stuck on mountaintops in New Zealand and all over the world trying to get transactions done. And people were I want to congratulate everyone for their resourcefulness in getting that done. Certainly appreciate to the various government who we had engagement with at a level that was, I think, quite remarkable, and all across various government recognizing the role that notaries play. Of course, a relationship with land titles has been critical. Many changes coming, and we're right in the middle of significant changes. We've got land title transparency coming up shortly. The government they've now posted, for example, the timeline for the phasing out of Acrobat PDF forms. Again, your continued feedback. Here's what's really important to us. The PAL line has been a tremendous for you folks, just kind of reporting to us and letting us know what's going on, problems you're difficult having. So let's just keep that up. Again, I've noted how remarkable it's been. People have been sorting out how to deal with completely unanticipated situations. Particularly want to acknowledge Joan and Leanne for their remarkable work with me on the PAL line. You folks have just had to deal with the usual. Here's the problem. We've dealt with the amazing and usual variety of situations you find yourselves in, but doing it in an unprecedented environment. So I think in all sorts of ways, the relationship of the society, the Notary Society, to various other bodies, to the government, to the Law Society, to all the people that sort of impact on our practice has been a particularly intense year. And frankly, I think it's gone very well. In terms of everyone and the work they've done at the office, people coping with remote things, people have been reading it. See my sign up there. I've been harping on just read it for a long time. And we have an extraordinary sense of you notaries around the province have been taking their legal work incredibly seriously. I just love it when notaries quote law to lawyers. That's a pretty common advice I give people. I just want to congratulate you on your legal knowledge and how often it's remarkable that some agency, the other lawyer goes, oh, thank you, notary. You've educated me about the law. So we need to remember we are legal professionals giving legal advice to the highest standard of legal practice in this very unique profession we've got going here. And again, particularly in these times, you've all demonstrated the value of notaries to British Columbia. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ron. I do see there is a motion on the floor for the board to present a new auditor for 2021 and 2022. So that would be next year. It has been seconded, so we can, I guess, discuss the motion. I will like to, I can get David to respond to as well, but please note that we did have, Eric can comment on this as well. We did have an RFP out last year where we did discuss with other accounting firms to become the auditors. We had the RFP, we reviewed it and so forth, and we still did recommend BDO, but I can let David and Eric comment on that as well.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to what Jesse just said, but I know there was the comment it was last year, the year prior, just that we haven't had anybody other than BDO for quite a while. So we did go through the process of putting the RFP out there and had a number of responses. And when we evaluated them, BDO was, far and away the looked to be our best option. Eric, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, yeah, that's essentially it. We did do an RFP last year for the audit services, and we included BDO along with, I believe there were 5 other firms that provided a response to that, and we went through them all and came out with BDO on the other side. So it is true that BDO has done our audit for a long time. However, the current team that is on our financial statement audit has not been doing our audit for a long time. This is I believe the second year that Brian has done our audit as the partner, and his entire team was new this year, so there was no carryover from the prior year. So BDO as a firm, yes, has done the audit for a long time, but sort of all the staff, including the partner, on the audit are pretty fresh, pretty new to us. So there are no sort of long-term BDO staff working on our. When I say long-term, I mean long serving on our engagement is what I mean. So.
It's almost like it was almost like a new auditor, right? Because we did have new eyes on everything and the new way of doing things and how the audit was. I mean, obviously the fundamental principles are followed, but we definitely had different viewpoints of Brian and his team coming on and doing the audit, I would assume.
That's right, yes. And one of the considerations that we had when we went through the RFP process last year was that, we had an entirely new team last year, with Brian doing the audit for the first year as the partner. And there's always an investment as somebody that's as a firm or as an entity that's being audited. There's always an investment of time when you switch auditors, and so we had invested that time with the new partner and then the new staff at BDO, and that was one of the considerations with BDO, was that we'd already sort of gone through that with them, and if we had changed auditors, we would go through that process again, and it's a bit of an inefficient process. So there are benefits to sort of getting that initial getting to know you, sort of process out of the way and moving on and developing a relationship. And so I think that's what we've been trying to do with BDO since they turned over all the staff last year.
Thanks, Eric. I got Bill there. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. You're still muted.
Eric, as the Chief Financial Officer, are you comfortable with the work and the value that we're receiving from BDO?
Yes, I would say I am happy with the value that, and again, in the RFP process, they gave us a proposal that did offer good value. I think they have given us good value. I think they've really taken their role seriously, which we would hope of any auditor, but it's been nice in the last couple of years to see the efforts that they have put into bringing things to our attention as well, that they're exposed to all sorts of different organizations, and it's nice to develop a relationship where you kind of have some feedback on best practices and things like this that helps us gain efficiencies and address risks on our end, to just improve things going forward. And I have been happy with that from BDO.
Thanks, Eric. Alex?
Yeah, I sat on the finance committee, and I can attest to the strict standards that the BDO is doing their work. They take it very seriously. As you know, our AGM was postponed for 2 weeks. One of the factors is BDO, I guess, insists on verifying certain things to do with one of the wholly owned subsidiaries, just to make sure. So I think they take their work very seriously. As long as they fit into not too expensive, personally, I would say let them do it.
Thanks, Alex. Just a couple of, I mean, that was one thing that I kind of wanted to have done last year, was that RFP, to make sure that we did, we were keeping everybody honest on the process, and BDO. So I was happy with that RFP process and what we had seen and put forth from the other companies that had presented to be the auditors. And Eric, I understand the motions on the floor, but I just would like to get from you, Eric, is the time and energy that was spent, and would you see that as a healthy exercise for next year, or would we wait another year or two? What's the time and commitment from your standpoint of doing that? Because I know it does take a little bit of energy and resources to have that done. So just comment on the process, and where, as a CFO, would you recommend that we do it again, next year, prior to recommending the audit for 2021-22?
Yeah, the RFP process is somewhat time consuming. It does take effort, and given that we just did it last year, if it's the will of the members, we will do it again. But I think it would be better timed, perhaps in a year, maybe a couple years, to sort of reconsider that. And so the time investment in the RFP process itself is one aspect of it. But again, like I spoke to earlier, anytime you switch auditors or have a new partner, there is an investment of time, sort of upfront time, that it takes to develop that relationship, as well as just build the background knowledge and information. And so any switch would involve that time investment as well.
Yeah.
And so I guess from my perspective, the question would be, is now the right time to invest time in those two sort of time consuming areas?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thanks, Eric. And I would concur with what you've said, as well as I think it would be better spent in years where we would revisit that process and so forth. So, and there is upfront costs with those new companies that come in, because they put that into their proposal as well, because they got to learn the business and so forth. So I would agree with you. There is a question here regarding the privacy of member, I think it's member audits and privacy policy. And I just want to make sure that the membership understands that it's totally two different departments at BDO that handle the various audits. So we have the member audits, which is not Brian and his team at all. And it just coincidentally it is with BDO, but there's a separate department, which is Brian and his team, that actually does the audited financials. So there's two different departments. So if there's any comments and questions regarding the practice audits, we could direct those to John and myself, because we will be reassigning some of the directors on the committee. So I would be sure to answer any comments regarding the practice audits if there's questions pertaining to that. Just trying to follow along the questions here.
Mr. President, you do have a motion on the floor, and it does appear that it was seconded in that a member said, "I agree with the motion."
Okay, so we got.
And I think summarizing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the recommendation from the Finance Committee and the board would be that at this time, members oppose a resolution to change auditors for next year.
Sorry, I think that's wrong. I think so the motion, so we've already passed that we've selected the auditors for 2020, for 2021. The motion on the floor is to present a new auditor for 2021, 2022. There we go. Perfect. So that is the motion that's on the floor. So we'll give the membership an opportunity to answer that, please.
We'll just give that a few more seconds. Currently, it is sitting at 16 voting yes to the motion, 64 voting no, and 6 are abstaining. So that is now up for 1 minute and 10 seconds. It appears that the voting is done. I will end the poll. And there are your results.
Perfect.
And I would anticipate that we will do another review of audit practices. Generally, it's between 3 to 5 years, depending on a whole number of factors.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. And thanks again, Eric, for your comments and feedback as well. And thanks again, Ron, for your comments as well. Any other further new business or any other questions or comments from the membership at large or directors? Mr. Alex Ning.
Hi there. Can maybe if we still have Ron, can he give us an update, or John can do it, as to what is the current situation with the Stephen Chong reward?
Yes, hello. Thank you for the question, Alex. What I can report is that the board directed John and I to work with the RCMP and the IHIT team. We've done that. As just some members know, that the board did approve the possibility of a reward, but we did direct us to work with the police. I can report that since that board meeting, we've had intense discussions with the RCMP, and that has led to their asking that we hold off on that for a while. They have just confirmed that their investigation into the murder of Stephen is at an intense point, and they're pursuing it vigorously. And so they suggested as much as they appreciated the willingness of the society, they felt at this time it would not be supportive of or they can show as a very active investigation. So I think that, in a sense, gives us all some comfort that the investigation remains apparently a very high priority of IHIT, that's the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, and the Mounties. So we'll but they have said they are looking forward to, and throughout the year, they've kept in close contact with us. There is a new head investigator on the team who we know. So that's really all I can report at this time. Just that their internal sense was they've been talking to the widow and their investigative team, and they just like us to hold off a little bit on that.
Thanks, Ron.
And of course, it is 1 year tomorrow that Stephen Chong was murdered in his office. So we certainly appreciate hearing from IHIT about the active investigation, and trust that there will be some charges laid and hopefully a conviction.
Yeah, and just one point, John, I should probably also make that the RCMP, I said, is there any particular concern you have about any of our other members or lawyers at this time? And they said no. So they were very clear that whatever it is that they're actively working on does not involve what they believe to be any particular danger to any of our membership.
Thanks, Ron. John, anything else from you or Marnie?
No, just again, my thanks and appreciation for all of the board members, the board members in the past, and of course the management team. A real big welcome to our new public representatives. That is a fundamental shift in the society, and really looking forward to it.
Sorry, thanks, John. I just see another question pull up here.
We can deal with that privately, Jesse.
Perfect, thanks, John. Again, concur with what John is saying. So thank you to the board, thank you to senior management for all the hard work that we put in the last little while, especially with everything that's going on in the world. So I appreciate your time and energy that everyone's put forth and the effort. And again, I welcome the new board members. I welcome Alan, Lisa to the board as well. I appreciate the time commitment that you will be putting forth too. So thank you to all. And with that, I have a motion on the floor to adjourn. I've got a seconded by Chris, and it is up on the floor. Give it a minute.
Apparently nobody is voting against it.
Surprise, surprise.
And just a brief reminder, of course, that to all board members, there will be a brief board meeting after this on a new link.
Yeah, so it is approximately 10:10, so we will give ourselves 15 minutes. So at 10:25, please come back to, Chriselle has already sent out the link to the board members. If you can, please join that meeting within the next 15 minutes, and we'll get the next, our first official board meeting